Yo, blockbusters are back. I suppose last month I praised Mission Impossible for making that real shit, and now I guess I gotta give this praise. Seeing this in the theater for sure elevated my experience. Getting to hear the roar of the engines was exhilarating. The car races themselves were too clutch. The story, on the other hand, was fine. Brad Pitt has so much charisma, it's hard not to get sucked into his charm, even though he's a piece of shit. Javier Bardem was cool to see, but didn't do too much to dazzle you. And Desmond Idris was good. Kerry Condon had probably the second best performance of the film. This isn't going to be a film that'll win an Oscar for acting, though. Seeing these races on the big screen was the reason to buy a ticket, and they didn't disappoint. From the start, it's not hard to buy into the action we get served. It starts off on the right note for sure. There's this one shot they keep going back to during the film where the camera is mounted to the car, and I just wanted to hold on those shots for longer. It seemed like the editing got so frantic during some of these race scenes, and I wish we'd just got more sustained shots of the driving. Maybe it didn't look good. I'd understand maybe the racing looks a bit shit if they held those shots and they need to hide it through cuts. Unsure of all that, but I'll just have to live with it. A great movie to see in theaters, and will be a good enough movie to watch at home. I can't imagine I'm going to see this again unless I get an 80-inch telly and a gangster surround sound though. It's Kneecap the recap. There was this one cinema near me that played this, and I had no cash and no motion at the time, so I had to wait till this was on streaming to watch. I'm real sad I didn't see this in the theater, but I still got to enjoy this fantastic film. This is probably the most important film to come out of the biopic genre since, like, Walk Hard. It's a half-truth, half-fiction origin story of the Irish rap dance hip-hop group Kneecap. It's taking the thing that the Weird Al movie did a few years ago, but instead of playing this concept for laughs, they play this one for some laughs, but with a message. Every word of Irish spoken is a bullet fired for Irish freedom is the most memorable line from this film and can sum up the message it's presenting quite well. We get an exciting film that is so well acted, not just for first-timers, but in general, especially DJ Provi, who I thought was the real star of the show. His story that is somewhat true, going from a teacher to a member of Kneecap, seems to be based on his real life experience. Getting in trouble at school, showing his ass on stage. Yeah, there are exaggerated and made up parts of the film. It's not a true to life biopic, and I see it more as a tale that uses Kneecap as a vehicle to tell it. It's a fucking gem. It's great to see a movie use its runtime to have fun, make you laugh, but also present you with a lot of advocacy for Indigenous language, self-determination of Indigenous people, and of course, hating the British government. I think this will be a modern classic in some time, to be honest. Even if it doesn't get that recognition from a wide audience, it's going to be a cult classic for sure. And I didn't even mention Michael Fassbender's in this, and probably has one of the most darkest yet most hilarious moments in the movie that ties up the film quite nicely. Thanks, Kneecap. Bacon, egg, and cheese. Bacon, egg, and cheese. Bacon, egg, and cheese. This was better than Spider-Verse, to be honest. Give me 100 of these. Not awful, not terrible. It has its moments. Kevin Nash sighting, John Travolta phoning it in is always gangster. The setup being the execution of an entire family was so absurd you can't help but at least want to see where this movie goes. This taught me a lot about 9/11 and Stephen Hawking. Dude. Intentionally confusing, purposely disorientates you and leaves you with far more questions than answers. William Friedkin's cruising left me with a lot to think about. Watches with my brother, who was left unsatisfied by the time the credits roll, due to the film's narrative leaving you so mind-fucked. Up is suddenly down and left is suddenly right, guys. A crime drama set in the S&M heavy leather gay scene in a 1980s New York. This film doesn't hold any punches, and apparently there was a cut of this film that was 30 minutes longer, and it was a lot more explicit than the film already was. Apparently it just amounted to more sex scenes and gay bars and didn't really add to the story. The footage was actually burned and disposed of, so apparently we won't even know. But Friedkin doesn't seem seem too mad about it from what I've read. Al Pacino is a detective who goes undercover to find a killer, operates in the gay underground, and I'm not going to get into the story. You can find entire essays about its meaning. The main character changes and what was shown, what was implied. What I'm getting at is there are a fair few writings on this movie by people a lot smarter than me that can dissect everything we see here, and I'm unsure if the footage that was lost would help fill in the blanks, but I don't think so. What we get here is a gritty crime drama that presents the loss of character as Al Pacino sinks further into the case he works. We get a lot of questioning about the cycle of violence and how you can never truly stop violence from happening. The biggest gripes I probably have with the film is that it could have honestly been longer. I would have loved to see the struggles even more that Al Pacino implied he was going through. Not that we don't see it, but you could have shown a lot more. Although if we had all the questions answered, you wouldn't be left questioning everything you've just watched. You can't trust everything you see in this, and it's not going to hold your hand, so just go along with the ride and cruise, man. Jesus Christ. If we aren't talking about adaptation, what else are we going to talk about? This is what I would have said if I saw this in the cinema. Covered in like 10 layers of meta, Charlie and Spike cooked so hard. It's hard to put my feelings into thoughts for this film without spoiling the entire thing. Now, I know this came out over 20 years ago, but like young people are seeing this for the first time, and I don't want to give the game away, you know? Just absolutely mind-bending film that'll leave you, if you're like me, wondering what parts of the plot were real, what was fake. Nicolas Cage and Meryl Streep tear the fucking house down, and one of the most underrated supporting characters I've seen in a film, and I'm not talking about the second Cage. We're watching a film that is about the making of a film that you're watching, but also not actually the film, and not even the making of the film, and it's a completely made up film. Now, if that doesn't at least intrigue you, seek help. 3 good sports documentary episodes about belting the Yankees. I approve. I've been meaning to watch this for a long time, and it lived up to its expectations that I had for it. I've never seen Rent. I thought this was actually incorporating the songs from Rent, but it's an adaptation of a Jonathan Larson one-man show, and fuck, this shit slaps. Look what happens when you sit Lin-Manuel Miranda down and say, you can't write the songs, you can't be on camera, but you can direct. We get gold. We got solid direction, solid set design, but obviously the real star here is the music. Andrew Garfield stepped up to the occasion and along with the rest of the cast delivered. Of course, there were plenty of cameos. I didn't know who any of the fucking people were, but you just knew by the way the camera would linger on some random guy that it's probably important. 3090 and the Sextet montage were probably my favourite songs. It's actually real tragic to find out that John died before Rent came out. Even I've heard of it, so it must be special. Another sports doc I saw this month, and this was the best one. It's mainly composed of archival footage of F1 driver Ayrton Senna. This doc doesn't seek out to tell you his life story, but more, it gives you a sense, almost a feeling, a portrait of his impact. There's almost no voiceover, no talking heads, what have you. Instead, we opt to see what the public saw at the time. Some of the footage we get is just gnarly, man. The camera's strapped to the front of these cars puts us in the driver's seat. Not unlike F1 the film, but here it's real, man. This is real shit. The F1 scene at the time was a million times more dangerous. The drivers were right at the front of the car, no windscreens, no crash railing. You're as close to the edge as you can be. Every time you see race footage, it's a rush, and I can only imagine the rush people like Senna felt at the time. And Senna comes off as incredibly sincere in this. What I'm here for is what the filmmakers present us, which is an emotional portrait of one of the greatest athletes the world has seen, and it delivers that tenfold. There's amazing use of montage, using archival footage to tell this story, such as his rivalries and his untimely end. This is an amazing film that blew me away and was definitely one of the highlights of my month. I really want to keep liking Aaron Sorkin, and I do for the most part. Everything here is serviceable. It's not going to blow your mind. We're really watching Sorkin for the script, and yeah, watching these people who are on trial for revolutionary leftist ideas be watered down was just average. There's parts of the script that I could critique. Little phrases and quips said by supposedly radical characters I just roll my eyes at. The ending is, look, it can be interpreted as pretty corny and libbed up. If you let that sour your viewing, I think you've gone down the rabbit hole of hating Sorkin, because as cheesy as it was, it gets the point across. People that saw it as a rah-rah, love the troops ending. I didn't interpret it as that. Thought more of about remembering the young people who had to go to Nam and lose their lives for nothing. Overall, underwhelmed but not overly hateful. If you put this on for movie night, it's whatever. Roman Polanski's The Ninth Gate is a 50s noir mystery stuck in a 90s body. I think that a lot of this felt like a throwback. I couldn't help but think that if this was in black and white with some more shadow work, we'd have a classic noir. Like, if anyone was going to translate a full-on 50s style flick for the 90s, it'd probably be someone like Polanski, I'm guessing. Maybe I'm really reaching here, but it did give me a familiar vibe, especially if you watch a lot of pre-70s, 50s, 60s movies. The story is going to have you wanting to see where it goes. The performances are good, but to be honest, not unhinged enough for my liking, especially for a conspiracy movie. It gets a little bit there by the end. I enjoyed this quite a bit, and there were a lot of scenes that I got a kick out of. The film is actually a lot funnier than it lets on. There's some legit laughs to be had here. As far as standing high in the echelon of cinema, it's no Rosemary's Baby or The Pianist. It's still fuck Roman Polanski. I watched this on Netflix, so I guess I can take solace in the fact that the studio probably got like less than a cent for my viewing. Hey yo, fuck the Astros, man. What the hell? We got bins up in here. I thought this would be about steroids. A nice short film about your average Phillies fan's mental health problems. This is quite possibly the worst 30 for 30 I've seen. Things that would just make for a far more interesting documentary are left either on the surface and unexplained or just skimmed over entirely. This was clearly made by a hardcore Mets fan, and they wanted to talk about a truly magical time in baseball. They end up with a half-cocked and undervalued story of really complex people. The people who made OJ Made in America handled this. We get a far more in-depth look at the depravity and the crazy mental state these players were in. The ending actually had a montage that briefly touched on a lot of controversies and scandals that followed the 86 Mets, and it was probably the most interesting part of the film. But the fact that all we got was a glossed over hero worship of a team that has wife beaters, drug addicts, and men with anger issues was the real loss here. Could have been great. I understand they wanted to gush about the players, but I feel it was sacrificing a far more compelling and true story. Yeah, but Keith Hernandez is a baseball god, though. In this crazy world, we are all Bob Dylan. Yeah, it was mid. I don't know what I was expecting. I asked my stepdad before I saw this if Jurassic Park was scary when it came out. He was like, hell yeah. Wasn't scary. It had some tense scenes, but this theater was filled with like children and literal babies when I went to see it. So that made my night fun. It was so fun. God damn. Who hurt Spike Lee, man? Fuck. I think one thing this film makes me most interested in is reading a biography of Spike Lee. Especially in the years leading up to this film. It's angry and mean-spirited. It's a bit hateful in places. It doesn't leave you with a sense of comfort. There's no hero's journey that you're going to find. You get left with a sense of dread and a total re-examination of how you interpret Western film. culture, television. I was left for the days after this thinking back on media I consume and how African American and minority groups have been portrayed in the things I watch and examine. This is a movie that is full of intense and uncomfortable moments that are not shot on 4K restored film. For the most part, it's on digital, harshly lit, grainy, almost documentary style, handycam. It's like you're right there with our main characters and you have no choice but to confront some of these uncomfortable truths head on. I'm not going to spoil anything. I don't think this is one of Spike Lee's most well-known films. I think it lends itself to a blind viewing, to be honest. It's an amazing piece of work from Spike Lee. It ranks up there with Malcolm X and Do the Right Thing for me. You got to make sure you see this, especially if you're uncomfortable with some of the realities of being a minority in the Western world. If you're a whitey, you need to see things from a different perspective. And this is one of those perspectives. It can't be all warm fuzzies, we solved racism. It's confrontational, and I think it's all the more better for that. I beg y'all to see this. Yeah, it's fine. The first half I actually enjoyed. I think this was one of the better Sandler Netflix films for the first half. Then the second half hit and it totally lost me. I like Happy Gilmore. A lot of people love it. I'm more of a Longest Yard guy myself. Sandler continues to have one of the most talked about careers, even if the quality can differ wildly. So I'll always appreciate that. Seeing MJF here was maybe my favourite part. He's such a charismatic guy. It might have been one of the better looking Sandler films for the first half, at least in the Netflix era of his career. It wasn't totally grounded, but there was a good sense of the world this film was building. Then, like I said before, I just got uninterested in the second half. It jumped the shark for me and got way too goofy for what I wanted. Maybe I like it more knowing what it's like now and repeat viewing, but pass, to be honest. Ayyy, James Gunn made me like super woke. I mean Superman. From the first 5 minutes, I was pretty hooked. This film's just so much fun. It's so vibrant, there's so much colour, there's humour, but not in a Marvel quiptastic sort of way. There's so many good gags and side characters that are central to the story. They aren't there for fodder. Everyone gets a moment to shine. Shout out to Mr. Terrific and shout out Hawk Girl. She did what she had to do. I was actually invested in the Lois Lane Superman plot. It didn't feel like a throwaway side plot. I enjoyed the main message of the movie. You know, it's punk rock to care about people. Not just your family and friends, but people that are suffering from injustice in the world, especially those who are suffering under things like occupation, people that are victims of genocide. James Gunn said he didn't specifically make a film about the current G word, but that was my interpretation. People can take from the movie what they will. It's badass to give a shit. In a world that can be so cynical, I think a huge blockbuster, a film that people are actually going to see with a message like that is super important. So, thanks, James Gunn. Yeah, this was fucking brilliant. Shot documentary style, starring non-actors involved with events like what we saw in the film. The Battle of Algiers tells the tale of the Battle of Algiers. Suvi taught me more about geopolitics and Algiers than any class I took in school, I'll tell you that. It's gritty, it's raw, it's awe-inspiring at some points. The scope of the film is actually huge. You get so many crowd shots, stuff involving hundreds of extras. It goes a lot of places and gets you in the headspace of every character you see. I will say the film is not, I guess, subjective. You see all sides of this conflict and you hear multiple perspectives from each side. Some you're sympathetic to, some you'll disagree with. It's a film you can argue with. Maybe no character is exonerated, but no one's fully slandered. You do end up siding with the freedom fighters, I reckon, though, as their cause is far more righteous. But you see them bomb places where civilians are. There's an argument, that, like I said before, you argue with this film, there's an argument to be made these French occupiers are living on stolen land, but they're just civilians, you could argue. Do they deserve to become casualties? This is what I'm getting at about the argument point. This is a movie dealing with the grey area of a revolution. and also shows how Arab and Muslim countries get taken advantage of and destroyed by occupying forces. It has a lot to say, and it says it all in about 2 hours. If you haven't seen this, it's essential cinema. I highly recommend. It'll transport you to a world that, if you're like me, have no idea what it'd be like to be in our main characters' positions. It'll take you to that world. It will leave you on the edge of your seat. Maybe give you a little bit of hope. Hey, yo, a colourful, mind-bending action film. So many points. I looked at my brother and said, they don't make them like this anymore. It's gory, heady, a fucking thrill ride, man. I'm like 40 years late to the party on this one, but it's awesome. Practical effects, huge sets, a bastard villain. Come on, it's Total Recall, man. Arnie was a beast here. You cannot have a bad time when this is on, and will be a staple for me going forward whenever I need something fun and action-packed to clear my mind. Hell yeah. Brofist. And that's what I watched this month. Last thing I watched was Total Recall. Maybe try to make another video in the middle of the month. Bye.